It's time to talk Endgame. I hope you guys have seen this movie because this is a completely spoiled-filled review. Just letting you know. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nerd News. I'm your host, Chris Chavez. Hope you're having a good weekend. I definitely am. I've seen Endgame twice now in the theaters, and it gets better each viewing. So if you guys haven't seen the movie yet, pause this video or stop the video, go watch it, and then come back, because I'm going to spoil everything. It's been a week since it's been out. If you've been on social media, you've probably have seen things. So Endgame is the 22nd film in this giant episodic saga that began 11 years ago with 2008's Iron Man. Now that is a very long time to have a franchise going, and a very long time to keep us, the viewers, entertained to want to come back and watch these movies. So like I mentioned in the spoiler-free video I did, this movie revolves around the 6 original members, the 6 original Avengers. It's not so much a Thanos movie, but the 6 original cast. And right off the bat, this movie just pulls at your heartstring. The movie opens up with Hawkeye and his family outside having lunch. He is teaching his daughter how to shoot the bow and arrow, and they're having a nice, wonderful day. Until he sees his family turn into dust right in front of his eyes. He can't figure out where they are, and he panics. Fade to black, roll the Marvel credits. Now to open the movie up like this, emotionally you're like, oh God, what is the rest gonna feel like? Who's gonna die in this? You know what I mean? So the 6, how are they functioning? Let's run this down. Thor blames himself for not going for the head, not finishing Thanos when he had a chance. Captain America is trying to hold the team together the best way he knows, the best way he can, through his positivity and his leadership. Natasha is just lost. She is completely distraught over everyone that has been decimated from the snap. Bruce has no idea what to do. He looks like he is just in limbo because he is having an internal battle with the Hulk, and now he's lost all of his friends, aka his family. We know what happened to Hawkeye, and Tony is lost in space. What else can go wrong for these group of superheroes? So the team devises a plan to go and simply kill Thanos. They know where he is because he used the stones fairly recently. And because they have Nebula on the team, Nebula knows exactly where his retirement villa is. It's not really a villa, but it is a retirement home. You see Thanos at his farm, not a villa. You see him at his farm picking up weird giant potato things, and his weird little green shirt almost looks like Shrek, cooking up something, and he's gonna have a retirement dinner. They ask him where are the stones. He said he used them to destroy the stones, and Thor just can't handle it and cuts his head off. At this point, I'm like, wow, that happened rather quickly. Where are we going from here? Let's find out together, shall we? Now, after all this failed attempt, they know that their family, everyone that they've lost, is truly now gone. There is no way to bring them back. Now, this part of the movie, this act, the second act, is my favorite because it delves with 2 main key terms that define this entire movie: desperation and humanity. Yet again, we see how all 6 cope with a second time just finally realizing that, no, this is it. This is it. We get a title sequence of 5 years later. And we definitely get to see how much these characters have changed in 5 years, and boy, did they change. So we see Cap. Cap is leading just a small, like, AA group of people who have survived, and he helps them cope with how to move on. It's not just sticking with the Avengers. He's just anyone that's alive, he will sit down and talk with. He's a good guy. Natasha also leads a little team to scour the earth and protect it just in case it needs protecting. And I find that also amazing. She pretty much turned into like the Nick Fury of this new generation, if you will. But her her change in all this is my favorite because she is just completely torn down by losing everyone, not once but twice. Desperation and just a sheer loss of there really is nothing else. She can't hold back the tears when talking about the past Avengers and the past people that she's been in contact with. And that is where the humanity really starts to kick in this movie. Now we're going to talk about Thor. Now how Thor has changed is hilarious and also at the same time really sad. Because he's fat. He's like John Goodman. Sorry, John Goodman. There's a specific line in that scene when the Hulk's talking to him and he says the word Thanos. And all of a sudden this comedic like, oh, I'm fat, turns into just sheer serious drama. He starts to tear up and he goes, do not say that name. And there's just this underlying moment of just, I've lost everything. I don't care about myself anymore. I'm the god of nothing. I'm a god of beer. That's what he's the god of now. And I think Bruce Banner has really benefited from these 5 years. Last time we saw him, he was battling his inner demons with the Hulk. He was battling his inner demons with himself, not knowing how to contribute with the team. But now in these 5 years, he's figured out via gamma rays and experiments on himself how to blend the Hulk and Bruce Banner together, and we get Professor Hulk. And then we get Tony Stark. Tony is finally married to Pepper, has a little girl named Morgan, and has honestly the happiest of life. But you can tell deep down inside, he's like, I've lost everything. It's almost like Natasha, where it's just this desperation, this just like sheer loss. But you know what? I love what I have now. I'm going to remember everyone that we've lost in the past, but I want to move on with Pepper and Morgan. It's very, very a nice, warm build-up feeling into, what's going to happen later. And Tony's relationship with his daughter Morgan is just heartwarming. He tells her before he tucks her in, it was something like, I love you billion or something like that. And she responds with, I love you 3,000. And he just smiles like, wow, 3,000? That's a lot. And it's just this little heartwarming like moment in the scene that it just sticks with you. Trust me. It sticks with you. Now they figure out that they need to go back in the past to retrieve all the stones before Thanos does, to hopefully snap their own fingers and reverse everything that Thanos has done. So the use of time travel in this movie is fantastic. It makes sense. It feels like a comic book. And yes, as they explained the plot, I was like, wow, this seems just like Back to the Future. And then the writers wrote it in. Scott Lang says, yes, it's like Back to the Future. And I'm like, all right, fair enough, guys. Good job. Now, when the team goes back into time to retrieve the stones, they split up into different timelines. One team goes to 2012's New York, the Battle of New York. One goes to the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and the other team goes to where the Winter Soldier happened. And with all of these timelines going on, we just get to revisit the past 11 years of sheer MCU greatness. And in one of those timelines, they run out of the Pym particle, which makes them small enough to go through the quantum realm and go back into any timeline. And when they go back to retrieve more of the particle, Tony gets to see his dad. And when Tony sees his dad, it's very much his relationship with Morgan. It's very heartfelt. I mean, we've seen Howard Stark before. So we get to see this nice little interaction, and Howard absolutely not knowing who Tony is, and Tony's mouth's dropped, just staring like, you're my dad. Oh my God, you're my dad. Now, when the whole team gets back to their current timeline, they realize that one of them is missing, essentially, and it's Natasha. So Natasha and Clint had to go back to retrieve the Soul Stone. Now, we know what happens with the Soul Stone. You have to give a soul in order to take a soul. And so there is a really just emotional scene of Hawkeye and Black Widow fighting over who's going to die to retrieve the stone. And of course, Natasha wins, tricking him with a cable stuck to a wall, and she dies, which is perfect. Out of the two characters, it makes more sense for Natasha to die, because remember, she has red in her ledger, and wiping the slate clean, it makes her undo all the horrible things that she has done in her past. And now to the good stuff. So some of the things in this movie, some of the moments that make your hair stand up everywhere. One of them, we're just gonna go right to the big one. Seeing Cap hold Mjolnir. I don't have a hammer, just pretend there's one in my hand. So at the end of this movie, you see the top 3 just strongest characters. Tony, Cap, and Thor against Thanos. That's Thanos. I don't know, there's 3 Thanoses apparently. Thanos has Thor on the ground, about to put an axe right through his chest, just like Thor did to him in Infinity War. And then you cut to Mjolnir on the ground, and you see it being lifted up. You don't know who's doing it. All of a sudden, the Mjolnir just goes right past the camera, hits Thanos on the head. The hammer comes back right to the hand of Cap. And this is when the theater erupts in applause, cheers, and hoo-hoo, hoot and holler. No one went hoo-hoo in my theater. I don't know why I did that. But this wasn't a big surprise. They teased this in Age of Ultron. Remember when they were all trying to lift the hammer? Cap tried it and it moved. And you saw the look on Thor's face like, oh, he moved it. Oh my god. But seeing Cap flip the hammer, call lightning down, and hit Thanos with it, unbelievable moment. Definitely felt like a comic book. It looked like something that just jumped right off the page and onto the big screen. Beautiful moment. Russo brothers, thank you. Now, getting to the end of this epic ending, we get to see Tony wield the Infinity Stones. Now, he gets them by wrestling with Thanos over the gauntlet that he made previously in the movie. And when he gets it, there's a look of sheer shock on Thanos' face. Because when Tony finally gets it, before he snaps his fingers, he says, "I am Iron Man." Snaps it. Everyone turns to dust. That is a bad guy. Bye-bye. And this line isn't a throwaway line. Saying "I am Iron Man" stems all the way back to 2008. That was the main line that changed the entire MCU, because it was one thing that comic book characters don't do. They don't give away their secret identity. Tony Stark's different. He's like, I don't care, I'm Iron Man. And of course, Tony's death. Now, when Tony dies, it is very hard to watch a character you've seen for 11 years. One person playing a character that long. So you see him pass away, and the MCU is going to look really different, going forward. After the snap, the power of the stone just killed him. He is human. And this movie ends again with some heartache. You see Cap old, because he returned all the stones back to its original point, stayed in whatever timeline he was in, married Peggy, and lived his life like Tony said he should. So when he came back to the current timeline, he is old. AARP old. Cap passes the torch of the Captain America persona and gives it to Falcon. So Falcon is now going to be the new Cap. Dang. Should have been Bucky. And the last scene I wanted to talk about still gives me goosebumps. After Tony's funeral, which everyone was there. It was insane. Even the boy from Iron Man 3, he was there, but he's all grown up, so you don't recognize him. But anyways, Tony has a hologram for Pepper Potts and Morgan, and he says what he needs to say. And before he turns off the recording, he looks at Morgan and he goes, "I love you 3000." He smiles and then turns it off. And that moment, I had a tear in my eye. So, Marvel's Endgame. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Tell me why in the comments below. And if this is your first time here, please hit the notification bell to be notified of new episodes. And please like and subscribe if you like this face, if you like what I say. Thank you guys, and until next time, I love you 3000.